You have watched all the videos, you have done all the research, and now you have decided you're actually going to set up a short-term rental. This is my playbook on how to structure the next 90 days so that by the end of it, you have an Airbnb that is up and running and functional and hopefully making you money and helping you build long-term wealth. Jumping straight in the first 10 days you have one job. Pick a market, figure out where you are going. If you already have a property like an old house that you're moving out of, great, you just saved yourself 10 days. Just check the regulations in the area, make sure you can actually use a short-term rental strategy and move on. For everyone else, here are a few common ways to think about which market to pick and help narrow down your choices. All of them are valid. The first approach would be to look into a subsidized vacation home. If you want a beach house or a lake house or just a place where your family can vacation, you can consider setting it up as a short-term rental for the other parts of the year and use Airbnb and VRBO earnings to help pay for it. That motivation already narrows your geography significantly, and you get the bonus of understanding and thinking like your target audience. The second common reason to pick a market is just staying local. This makes sense for anyone who wants to serve as your own backstop in case something were to go wrong. You're able to drive there and tend to any emergencies in case those come up. The peace of mind that comes with that proximity is honestly underrated, and for a first property, that's a pretty good place to start. The third common reason is to treat this as a pure market play. This is where you don't care where it is, you just care about the numbers. If this is you, go to AirDNA and look at their market scoring and insights. Take a look at all the markets available and study what kinds of properties are performing in each area, and look at what those properties actually cost. If the going rate for a lake house in a market you're eyeing is $1 million and that's not your budget, then that market is not for you. Ideally, you're shopping for a market where the tourist traffic is heavy, there is great demand, the properties are not that expensive relative to how much money can be made through Airbnb and VRBO. This method/rationale is the one that's going to be taking the longest since it's a numbers play, and obviously you do have to be studying all the numbers. Whatever your reason or starting point, give yourself a deadline. 10 days of actually focused, dedicated time, an hour or two per day, should honestly be good enough to get going. Because even after you pick a market, you'll be doing further research, more due diligence as you're looking at properties. Nothing is truly final, but picking a location helps you move forward into the next steps. This stage is one of the biggest places where people get analysis paralysis. If you actually want to set up a vacation rental, set the deadline, do the research, and get going. For days 11 to 20, after you have committed to a market, now it is time to figure out what you're actually buying. Step 1 is to determine the type of property. Are you going big, like a massive group space, 10 to 15 guest outdoor activities, the kind of place that gets booked for a bachelor weekend or a family reunion? Or are you going more intimate? A cozy 2 to 4 person getaway, a romantic retreat that absolutely does not need 5 bedrooms. Get that clarity first and use the market analytics to help because it drives everything else in these 10 days. Once you know your general size and vibe, go to AirDNA and pull up what that type of property is actually earning in your market. I have other videos that go deep on exactly how to read these graphs and what to do with the data. I'll make sure to link those below. Here's what I want you to watch out for. It is very tempting to look at that top number where it gives you an estimated projected revenue number and just call it a day. Don't do that. That number can be inflated from bad data scraping, a lucky stretch of bookings that got extrapolated out, and sometimes for newer listings, they may have only been active for 3 months, and there's a level of beginner's luck based on the algorithm. If you let the AirDNA projected data treat it as if it ran all year, those numbers will be higher. Take all of this just as a signal and not an actual guarantee. As you're looking around on AirDNA, build your own comps list. Go through the individual listings and actually look at them like a detective. Like, what are the photos looking like? What does their booking calendar look like going forward? Are they actually booking out or just sitting listed and empty? What is their cancellation policy? And is this actually comparable to what you're planning to offer? I prefer to make my own manual spreadsheets with the link of the listing, how much revenue they've been making, what their reviews look like, their quality of photos, the amenities. And with enough practice, you should be able to train your eyeballs to just identify, yes, this listing that has 5 bedrooms and 3 baths should roughly make X, Y, and Z dollars on Airbnb. Now, what happens if the comparables in the areas don't fit? Our tiny house backyard Airbnb was exactly this. On paper, it's 1 to 2 guests with 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, but it's also an ADU in a wooded area with a passive home design. That specific offering was just genuinely not available in our area. So what do you do when you're building something without a clear comp? You think like the person who would book it. Who is your guest? Someone transiting through town, here for a job interview, maybe visiting for medical care, who wants something more interesting than a hotel room, but still wants to keep that higher end luxury design. Doesn't need a whole house, doesn't need a lot of extra space, but does care about the quality and the experience. That traveler's alternative is not some like 4-bedroom house. Their alternative is a nice-ish hotel. So the right framing here becomes, if I can offer something comparable to a premium hotel, but more unique and more personal, that's a real differentiator, and the pricing should probably reflect that more so than somebody's extra bedroom in the basement. You're almost using the other comps to understand the floor, and you're getting into the traveler's mindset to understand what the ceiling might be. In days 11 through 20, what you're really doing is honing that skill of being able to tell how much a property can make on a vacation rental booking website so that you're equipped for the next phase, which brings us to day 21. Now that you've done your comps, it's time to find a property that fits your criteria. You can start by browsing listings on Zillow, and I think it's also helpful to get yourself a realtor. They don't need to be short-term rental experts. What you're really wanting them for is their expertise and connections in the area. In this phase, you're kind of simultaneously doing 2 things. You're looking at the housing market of your chosen area to see what properties should go for, because we all know the list price isn't always what the property is worth. Right now, being a buyer's market, you're at an advantage to be able to negotiate. The second thing you're doing is running short-term rental revenue numbers on each of the properties that at least roughly fits your criteria on the amenities and what kind of house you're looking for. I'll link my calculator below. It's free to download, it's just an Excel spreadsheet. And the math here is simple. You're putting in the list price of the property and make a few notes about what that property looks like, just kind of for your own reference. Plug in what you think this property could realistically earn on Airbnb. Remember all the practice you did in the previous 10 days? This will come in super handy right now. My calculator plugs in default numbers on some of the expenses, but feel free to adjust based on what you know about the area. At the bottom, you can see what your return looks like. You can do the math again with a lower offer price, different terms on the mortgage, or even different down payments, and see how the math shifts. It's okay and totally normal that you don't find the correct property right away. Keep running the numbers. The more you've gone through the rep of doing this math, the faster you become and the sharper your instincts will be for that specific market. A week into doing this, you probably don't even need to pull up the calculator each time and only have to run the math on the ones that are actually really close. This step can take anywhere from a couple weeks to even longer if there's just nothing available. The other important caveat at this step is sometimes the math just doesn't math. You go through the whole process, you run the numbers, and then at the end you realize this market actually is not going to work, and that's okay. You do have to go back to day 1, and it does start this whole 90-day clock over again. But here's the thing, you'll move so much faster the second time around when you pick a new market. You've done a lot of practice and you already know how to pick a market, how to analyze properties. You'll be able to blow through the first 2 weeks at a completely different pace that second go around. I wouldn't think of this as a setback. It's actually a crisis averted. You avoided making the wrong investment move because you did the homework. After you find that property you like and making offers and eventually getting an offer accepted, which hopefully is a lot easier these days with it being a buyer's market, then you're moving towards the closing process. The process between the accepted offer, being under contract, to getting your keys in hand and having that property typically runs 30 to 45 days if things are kind of moving along smoothly. During that window, your mortgage lender is doing their thing with underwriting and appraisals. You will also want to do your own inspection, both to catch anything major where you might want to back out of the deal or to find issues that you might want fixed before closing. Not to nickel and dime people, but it's a potential renegotiation point if something comes up. Your mortgage lender will also want some insurance information for the house, so this is also the time to get insurance quotes. Highly recommend reaching out to multiple places to get different pricing, and also make sure the home insurance covers for renting it out as a short-term rental. The closing process is mostly happening in the background, down, which means this is also a great time to get all your administrative tasks in order. This is the moment where you want to set up a business entity, because whatever short-term rental licensing you're applying for, you may want it in the LLC's name, which means the LLC has to exist first. This is where I would recommend using Northwest Registered Agent, who is kindly sponsoring today's video. For $39 plus state fees, they handle the formation and you get their free identity services: a domain, a website, phone line, professional email, business address, mail forwarding, and brand protection, all included for free, so you look legitimate from day one. And trust me, you do not want to be giving out your personal phone number to your guests. A business number in the right area code is such a small thing, but it matters. Down the road, when you want to set up a direct booking website, you will also be glad to have your domain name already registered and an official email already ready to go. Check the link below and get priority processing when you register. And even if that offer on that first property falls through, you will be presumably making another offer in the area and you can still use that LLC. After registering for the business entity, I would take a look at licensing. Licensing varies based on whatever market you're in. Sometimes it's just with the city, sometimes it's with the state, sometimes it's with the county, sometimes it's all of the above. Depending on the local rules, you may also have an in-person component for someone to come in and do an inspection of the place, make sure it is okay for rental licensing. It's hard to generalize, but some of this can take a long time. For example, registering with the state of Florida, just with their state board, that portion took way longer than I expected, versus having someone come do a fire marshal inspection. That was actually the fast part. I would recommend getting started on this early so that you're not scrambling in the end and this is not the thing holding you up from going live. The other administrative thing that you can start working on ahead of closing is business banking. Open a separate account for your short-term rental business and get in the habit of separating personal versus business finances immediately. Any costs that you incur during the startup process, for example, setting up your LLC, the inspection, any travel related to closing, all of that may be considered part of your startup costs and you can use it to offset your rental income in the future. You guys already know I use Baselane and I'll leave a link for them below. The last bit of this phase, like day 60 to 75, get started on the interior design and furniture shopping. Not to actually buy any furniture yet because the house is not yours, but right now is the right time to start thinking about the design direction, get quotes from a designer if you're planning to use one, identify any big jobs like painting or landscaping, get in touch with appropriate vendors, even make a list of the key furniture pieces and different options that you're scouting out. These are items you'll want to move quickly on after you close, so whatever prep work you can do ahead of time, especially once you're through the inspection and the appraisal is going smoothly, you can start a lot of these conversations in earnest. Assuming all goes to plan, you have now closed on the house. We're on day 76. We're in the final stretch before launching, and this part is genuinely like super taxing and intense. 15 days to get this place live sounds intense, but based on personal experience, it's actually doable if you had done all the steps before this to plan ahead. I built a dashboard on ClickUp outlining the entire setup process, especially towards the end where there's all these little pieces like setting up utilities and making sure there's internet. Some of the smaller things can be easy to miss, so if you're interested in that dashboard, I will link that below as well. I will also link my free downloadable PDF if you just want like a 3-pager listing everything out. It is not hard, just lots of little things. Broadly speaking, one big bucket of it is the design and furnishing. The most important piece is knowing who you're designing for. Everything else just flows from that. A romantic couples retreat is going to need different things than a large group house for a bachelorette party. Your budget, your effort, the design elements should all reflect that. I've done previous videos on like where to shop, how to think of design, and what the budget should look like. I will make sure to link those videos below. I will say the one non-negotiable thing, regardless of your vibes, is comfort. I've seen so many Airbnbs, especially in the past few years, lean really far into the unique thing, which is fine. I love a unique stay, but it's almost like they forgot that they were selling a place to sleep. Be as creative as you want. Weird is totally fine, but a bad mattress, that is unforgivable. If you want more design ideas, frameworks, and philosophy on how to make a space psychologically comfortable, I love Baishu. She's an architect and she makes a lot of really helpful videos videos, not like prescribing exactly what kind of couch to get and what to do in X, Y, and Z corners. She gives you the thought process and framework behind why certain spaces make sense and certain spaces don't. The other big bucket in this time frame is the admin stuff. Make sure your licensing is actually done. Also have your insurance set up correctly. Beyond just the regular home insurance, I also highly recommend an umbrella policy, which is a helpful additional layer ensuring you as a person from additional liability from this exposure of hosting a short-term rental. You'll need to connect utilities, change out the locks, install any noise monitors you want during this time. And during those final 2 weeks is also where you need to finalize your team. You'll need help with landscape, you'll need maintenance people, handy people, you'll need cleaners. Interview a handful of options within each category, figure out what their pricing is like, and figure out if you can work with this person. It's cliche and you've probably heard it a billion times, but having the right team is actually crucial. Once your space is set up, all your furniture is in place, all the cutlery are in the drawers, now it's time for an amazing deep clean. Make sure everything is guest ready and photo ready, and then at that point, get some professional photos. Professional photos are the baseline expectation on Airbnb and VRBO nowadays, so you just kind of have to do it. With those photos in hand, now you can prep your listing. I've done a detailed deep dive on how to write the perfect listing, where we audited a few examples from this community and added a few tweaks. So if you're interested in more information, I will leave that video below as well. My top tips here are to be descriptive, anticipate any questions that you may have, and preemptively answer them via the description, because people will just not ask. People will have a question mark and they'll be like, I don't know, I can't figure this out from this listing. And they'll just go to the next one because there are so many options. You can totally use AI to help craft language that is more vivid and fill in the blanks where you did not anticipate. But I would highly suggest going back to tweak it so it doesn't sound like AI slob. There are no stupid opener sentences and conclusion sentences and emojis in the wrong places and way too many M dashes. The guests who care about AI slop will clock it immediately. Try to make it sound like a human who is just really good at their job. As for which platform to start on, this varies by market, but I would recommend using both Airbnb and VRBO to start. Make sure those calendars are synced. You can use a PMS, which is a service that you have to pay for, and I use Logify. Or in the beginning, if you want to save on cost, you can just use the iCal syncing. It's just a little bit more manual and you got to make sure that those are connected, but it's not hard to do if you're only using 2 platforms. The last big and important thing before you go live is the pricing. You've studied the market before, but that was already weeks ago. Go back and see what has changed and redo the math. Use something like AirDNA to really study what other listings have come up in that 90-day window since you first started looking. Set your base price based on available data, and then just let dynamic pricing do the rest of the work. For most people, it's just going to be so much more accurate in setting a price that is both profitable but also not too expensive where no one will book. You don't have to go manually figure out what demand is like in this weekend, in the future, and this other weekend, when the holidays are, when the events are. Dynamic pricing should be able to figure out the market occupancy, what listings are booked versus how many are not, and based on that information, where your pricing should fall. For cancellation policy and cleaning fees, look at what comparable listings in your market are doing, not to copy them, but to understand what guests in your area expect as normal. If you want more detailed walkthrough on how I use the dynamic pricing dashboards and look at market analytics, I have also a bunch of videos on that and I'll link those below. And that's it. You're live at 90 days. Picking a market, running numbers, finding a property, doing the paperwork, designing, prepping the listing, prepping the house, and actually launch. It is a lot, but it is totally doable, and now you have a roadmap. I'll link every single resource that I mentioned in the description box. What comes next after you go live? Your first bookings, your first guests, your first reviews, optimizing your calendar and dealing with that first issue, that is a whole other conversation. In next week's video, we will address a few surprises that I absolutely did not anticipate, despite all of the homework I've done. Make sure you are subscribed so you get notified when the new video comes out. Check out Northwest Registered Agent when you are ready to set up your business entity for your short-term rental, and I will see you guys again next time. Bye!